Welcome to Okon Bros. This is Eric.
And I'm Michael.
Today we have Nick Reid, who is a pretty prolific hiring agent for people in the travel industry. And we were just explaining before we went live how we feel what he does is such a value driven thing for the community that he's able to help out people find jobs, and I think that's a really noble profession. But thank you for coming on.
Nick, what do you do? What is it's travel staff, right?
It's travel
staffing?
staff. I better answer that by what I did.
Exchange password.
Sorry.
Okay.
What I did was, over 3 years, having come from the travel industry, born and bred, and from agencies to airlines and stuff, I set up travel staff 3 years ago with my former staff from Thai Airways. And over 3 years, we became the largest travel recruitment firm in the United States. Now, what do I do today? As of March 21st, nothing. We were decimated overnight. Being a service provider to the travel industry, we're the pimple on the ass of the elephant.
Right. Right.
So, and we found ourselves with nothing to do, and we said, what are we going to do? So we decided that we would stay the course and try to help people. So we went from earning a lot of money to earning nothing. We now do it for love.
Right.
I mean, yes, but
we're all in the same boat in
Every
in
one
the
of us.
in the travel world. Everyone is kind of scraping off the floor of how we can innovate and help and do those things. So I guess start from the beginning. Where did you
you were
start
in
your
travel
career?
you said you were in travel your whole life.
Yeah, I started off in 1976. So
I was born in 78, by the way.
yeah, in Australia. So yeah, exactly. I moved down to Australia in 1974 and got into the travel industry in 76. Started off as the brochure boy, the mail boy for Australia's largest travel company. Now, the mail boy in Australia is lower than the tea lady. We actually had a tea lady who went out at 10 and at 3 every day and delivered tea on a trolley. And they had more regard for her. They loved her. When I left, they gave me a little gift. When she left, they had a stretch limousine, balloons and everything. So I was lower than low, but started off there, worked through every department, then joined a small startup, and then in 82 set up my business, which was my largest customers were the music industry. So I became the first celebrity travel agency in Australia in 82 when I set up a company called Trips, and did that until I moved to the United States in 2004.
Okay.
I am American, but I was gone. My parents were missionaries in Japan, and they had relocated to the United States. And having been gone, although I saw them regularly being in the travel industry, in fact, that's why I joined the travel industry, is I wanted to be able to get back to Japan to see my family. And but when they moved from Tokyo to California, coincidentally, my wife is American from LA, and after 9/11, it really hit the Americans that were living in Australia more than it affected the Australians. And we realized, wow, we've been here. I've been there for 20 odd years by that stage. And it just hit home. My brother worked in the World Trade Center.
Oh my God, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, he's alive.
Oh my God.
He worked for Fuji Bank, and he was the vice president of the bank, but he was in a sales meeting in Midtown, and he isn't in sales. He was ops. But for some reason, they needed him that day, so they called him into a meeting, so he wasn't in the tower. But all those little things sort of hit home, and it was like, we need to get back to the States. My parents had just relocated in 97 from Japan to the United States, so it made the decision easy. So at the age of 45, we sold everything and moved, and I had to reinvent myself. So
That's what this
podcast is all about.
So you were still in travel in 04. So when did you start travel staffing?
Travel staff we started in 2017.
And how did you go about that? I mean, because that's an interesting story, because it's so well known across the industry. So how did you do that?
It wasn't my idea. I wish I could take all the credit for it, but it was my country manager from Thai Airways in Canada, a guy by the name of Jerry Taza, who started. He left and started it. I was still at Thai, and he knew that my time was coming up. My mother had just passed, and my father was on his last legs, and I had to step down. we gave up everything to be with family, and it didn't make
Sure.
any sense not to do, the last leg as well as we could. So I stepped down, and Jerry called me and said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm just going to concentrate on my father." And he said, "I've started this staffing company, and I'd like you to set up North America, the United States for me." And I said, "I'm not interested." And I said, "But why don't you speak to Imelda, who's my current partner?" And I said, "She's just finished up as well, and she's at a loose end." And so I put the two of them together. But being a big mouth and having been their boss, I couldn't stay out of it. So I said, "Well, I'll help, but from a distance. I'm not going to work with you guys."
Hmm.
Well,
What go- is that the end of the story, or there's more to it?
no, no,
No,
no,
go
no.
more.
Okay.
People frequently, and I'm a great proponent for this, mistake Canada for being the 51st state of the United States. The laws are different. We're very similar and we're close cousins, but we're not the same. And Jerry and the style that he set up his business was working well in Canada, but it didn't work down here. And so Imelda and I bought him out. I knew that it was going to take longer and cost more money.
Hmm.
America's just a big market.
Sure.
So we bought him out after only 6 months, and
Wow.
I stepped in as Imelda's partner. So Imelda and I have been 50-50 for most of the time.
Hmm.
And she was my ops manager at Thai Airways, but came from a corporate travel agency. Everybody that we have on our team has come through travel.
Hmm.
So
We,
it's for travel agents by travel agents.
It is, but a little bit greater than travel agents. We also look after tour operators. So we joined USTOA. We're the first recruitment firm to have joined USTOA. We're members of ASTA. And because we came through the entertainment and production travel side of things, we also knew that side as well as
Hmm.
meetings and incentives. So we joined SITE and MPI. I'm on the board of MPI's Independent and Small Business Owners
Okay.
committee. And it's really through networking. What we found was that nobody was working the industry in the same way, attending the conferences,
Right.
standing with people, listening to what
Right.
they were needing. So yeah, we set it up, and it just boomed. And we thought we were so smart until COVID hit.
That's
Yeah.
the going consensus of what everyone was thinking before
Yeah,
COVID hit. Eric and I thought we were invisible. I mean, we were on this trajectory.
We were doing
Uh,
great things.
we were doing
And
incredible things.
and we still are.
yeah.
Like the first 2 weeks we were like we were in shell shock. And
Hmm.
then we got in a meeting, and then we were like, okay, we have to innovate our way out of this. What are we going to do?
And you have. I mean, I watch your posts on
Thank
your
you.
cleanliness and the booths that you're setting up to spray your drivers, and and how you're cleaning the cars.
Yeah.
You've been the most proactive out there. It's fantastic. I
Thank
know
you.
we're a long way from recovery, but at least you're fighting back.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to reinvent yourself. And when it comes to reinvention, what's your? I want to call this your sixth act.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. No worries. What's your next act? Is travel staff going to still be around?
It is. We made a decision that we were going to stay the course, and
Smart.
we're well funded because
Good.
I'm older. If I were 25, I'd probably have had to go find a different job, let alone a different career.
Hmm.
But what we realized is that those that survive will come out of it stronger just by market share. Those that don't survive leave more for the others. Now, recovery, as you know, is going to take some time.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to come out of this with the vaccine. I've always said it's a race for a vaccine. But the devastation is still hitting every week. People are laying off. Expedia just laid off a quarter of their staff, Booking.com, and so it goes on. So we're still yet to see the blood flow in the streets.
What do you
And
think? What do you think the outcome is going to be
you
in
know, I've
travel?
I've tried to predict because everybody else is avoiding prediction. They're all talking about, oh, if and when. And because we work in an industry that is a happy industry, we're a people industry, we're optimists to
Awesome.
start with, we're service
100%.
providers. And that worked against us. So in March, everyone was talking about, oh, it won't be long, we'll be okay. And then the layoffs, the furloughs started. We immediately applied for our PPP loan. For the first time in my life, I filed for unemployment.
Wow.
And then the PPP loan came through, so we brought people back, paid everybody, and we decided we would spend that money as it was meant to be spent for the people.
Yeah.
And it's money it's their money, not just ours. And
Right.
we know it's going to be forgiven because we spent it in that fashion. Well, guess what? We just finished spending it last week at the end of July. So we all just applied for unemployment again. But we don't know what unemployment is going to be going forward without the $600 federal assurance. But it was a sort of a joke. People were saying unemployment's down, the numbers are down. Well, we were living off government subsidies, so we were taking it from the same pot. Just one was from the right hand, now it's from the left hand.
Right.
So the damage to the economy is yet to be felt. We're, as a nation, printing money faster than has ever been printed. And this year, we've printed more money, more debt than all the debt previous. And so our dollar has weakened for the first time in a long time.
Gold is through the roof.
2000,
Yep.
Unthinkable 2 years ago.
Yep.
And so we are going to be paying that back for a long time. So our economy is going to weaken. Now, the beauty is when America weakens, it's still incredibly strong.
Right.
Our economy, someone described it during the 2008 crisis as we have a dirty shirt, but we have the cleanest dirty shirt. And coming out of COVID, I think America is going to be very much the same. We will come out of it strong, but right now we have to get weak. We have to tidy up. So I think it's a race for a vaccine. The statistics are so strange. There's this young gal, Sarah from Happily. She runs a meeting company, and she took a brave decision in March and said, no meetings, only virtual meetings until a vaccine. Now, she's 30-odd years old, and she was brave enough to do what the meetings industry can't or hasn't. They're still saying, we're going to have meetings. Well, no, you're not. You know, the latest polls show everybody's meetings are the end of this year, first quarter of next year. And now she's moving to Asia, to Taiwan. She doesn't speak Chinese, but she's moving there because they've already recovered. She had been planning to do it anyway.
Right.
So she's leaving her team in America. And reading her article was fantastic. Taiwan has a population of 24 million. They've had 458 cases of COVID and 5 deaths. Now,
what did they do?
Population of LA.
What did they do different?
What did they do different?
Well, they don't. What they did was they closed down everything. You know, they forcibly shut everything down.
Exactly.
And because we won't, because we pander, because it's an election year, we're not taking the hard steps of saying, okay, bring it down. COVID said, not COVID, CDC said, if we had 4 to 6 weeks and we shut everything, we could bring this under control. And so the argument is, which is better for the economy? Is it better to let people struggle like this, or is it better to shut it down? Well, if you look at Taiwan, the answer is there. And it's still not too late for us to do this. Very hard to do, but probably the wise thing. Florida, unheard of numbers, 500,000. And so what makes America great is what's making America weak right now. It is our individuality, our ability to express ourselves. And that leads to innovation. But in a time of crisis, you have to conform.
100%.
You don't have a military with everyone going, hey, I think we should shoot from the left. I think we should. No, it's a chain of command.
Yes.
So what have you been telling people who are looking for jobs now?
Selfishly, I don't want them to leave the industry because I love this industry. I mean, it's been my whole life, and it's been so good to me and my family. But for people who are younger, I am suggesting that they look at alternatives. And what I've said is, if you really love the industry, it will get strong and it will take you back when it's ready. But with too many people hovering, there's not enough to feed everybody. So some people must leave. People who were my age, I'm going to be 64 this year.
Oh, God bless you, man.
Who were thinking possibly of retiring in a couple of years, they're bringing it forward. Now I'm doing the reverse. I've decided to stay in for a little bit longer, but some people are retiring. Friends of mine that were a year older that retired at the end of 2019, they're laughing. There's this guy, Mike.
Talk about good timing.
Australian guy, and I sent him a Facebook message saying, "Talk about good timing." You know. Anyway, I know. So some people are going to retire early. Other people will leave the industry. What I'm telling everybody is that they have to count on getting through for the next 16 weeks. You can't plan for all of 2021. But 16 weeks from now, from today, is Thanksgiving. And if we can get through to Thanksgiving, it's a downhill run till the end of the year.
Right.
I said a vaccine would come out by the end of the year, and people said, no, that's impossible. It'd take 3 years, 5 years. But Fauci just confirmed that he's quietly optimistic that we will have a vaccine. As to its efficacy and how well it will work, we don't know. But there are a number, and they're going into trial. So I tell people 16 weeks. And what I said at the beginning of April was trim all your costs. Cut all your costs. Keep your savings. We don't know how long government allowances will last, but trim your costs. Now I'm saying, in addition to trimming your costs, see what you can do for 16 weeks. Because once it's Thanksgiving, people will see the end of the year. They'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. And in the new year, things will start to ease back. They're not going to
100%.
Isn't it amazing how quickly this year went, though?
It is.
Like this was warp speed. It was
You'd
the
think
slowest year, but it was the fastest year all at the same time.
I agree with you. And you'd think it would be the other way around. You'd think it'd be incredibly slow. We're doing the same thing, the monotony. The only thing I know is that every Thursday I wake up and I think it's Friday.
Yeah.
I wake up on Tuesday and you think it's Friday. Yeah.
No, the days mold together. And I want to mention what you said before. I was always a proponent of shutting everything down for 60 days. Cuomo did it in New York. And this is not political. This is not a political podcast. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm right down the middle. And New York is thriving now. The cases, I think we had 600 something cases yesterday, which is still a lot. But we had, I think, 4 deaths. We had 3 days where we had no deaths. So Cuomo literally shut everything down for March and April. And I think it was the right move. It worked. Now, people coming back into New York, people now going out and being a little more reckless, that could inch the numbers back up. I mean, there could possibly be a second wave. And regarding school, do you have grandchildren?
No, I don't. I want them, but I have 2 useless sons.
Okay, well, you got to smack them around a little bit. Yeah,
they're not even married.
Okay.
Our rule: you get married, then you have kids. So we're waiting.
Yeah, I got you.
I don't know what I would do with children. I believed that we had to reopen schools, but until we get this, I've changed my stance on that because we don't have the virus under control.
That's exactly right.
We can't put children in harm's way.
And I said that I on my Twitter account. I said, and I'm a proponent of this. There was a doctor who said, we are stupid if we open schools. This is not a Democrat thing. This is not a Republican thing. This is protecting my kids thing. Okay. And I put on Twitter, I don't care how long this is going to take. My kids are not stepping foot in school.
And even if that means that business does not get back to normal,
I'm willing
happens.
Yeah. I'm willing to sacrifice it. It's fine. It is what it is.
It's only money.
It's only money that we'll figure it out when this is all over. But I think
we will, and time. And again, it's not going to do any huge harm. If everybody's held back by a year, everybody's the same.
Yeah, and
children are resilient. They'll pick it up.
100%.
They'll learn. So their health has to come first. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
People are saying that they need social interactions. Kids being home for 6 months with family and learning with family and being, we teach differently. I don't know how other people are teaching, but them not learning chemistry for 6 months, they're going to be okay.
They're not learning chemistry, but they're learning to bake.
100%.
And that's science. Maybe we'll come up with a generation that can cook, because I was raised in Japan, and men in Japan didn't learn to cook. My sister learned from my mother, but I love food. So I was always in the kitchen. My mother's going, "What are you doing here? Get out of here."
100%.
So I learned to cook, but there's so many of my kids' age, I guess the 30-year-olds, because fast food and convenience was out there, that didn't learn to cook. So maybe we'll rectify that, and that could be a great thing.
During the first part of the quarantine in New York, when it was like March to June, the kids had their curriculum during the day and everything, and they had to do their work and whatnot. But I allowed them 2 hours a day, whenever they wanted, to have YouTube time. And that YouTube time was not used for video games. It's not used to play games. They have to research every day a new topic that interests them. My daughter was researching sharks, and she was learning everything she wanted to learn about sharks that you can't learn in school. My son was learning about YouTube production, learning how to create podcasts and make clips and do art. So, I feel that this is a child's opportunity. When you have lemons, you
Like,
got to make lemonade.
what do we do
Mhm.
100 years ago?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
like everybody was home with their families all the time. That's
Yeah.
just the way that it was.
I love
Yeah.
it personally. I told my wife
Well,
10 minutes before this podcast, I love that we're home and my kids are going to be home probably for 7th and 3rd grade.
and I think that in generation, if you hear that funny noise, I have 2 French bulldogs and they're excited and playing.
Good.
They think it's great that everyone's home. But I think you're right. And I don't see that people see the dividend from this. And the dividend from this is families that are closer together, that communicate better, where children will be able to communicate with their parents on a different level. And I think that dividend will get played out like
Believe it or
in
not,
5 to 10 years' time.
like,
Yeah.
my kids have gotten closer. I have a 10-year-old girl and I have a 6-year-old boy,
And I have a
they've
12-year-old boy
yeah,
and an
Yeah, so
8-year-old
yours
girl.
are close. I was
yeah,
working out the 3rd grade, 7th grade. So,
yeah,
Yeah.
they've gotten closer, and then not only that, they've gotten closer to their cousins because they've been gaming a lot online because there's
yeah.
just been more time for it. There's no karate, there's no soccer,
Mhm.
there's none of that. So what do at 4 o'clock in the afternoon before dinner starts? They'll go online and they'll
The
game,
4 of them will play
and
together.
they're squealing and having the greatest time in the
And
world,
they've had issues. And they've had issues that
but
this
they
one
work it
didn't
out.
do it the right way. And you know what? Eric and I locked them in their room. I say, you can't get out. This machine can't get turned on until Alexander, who's my son, works it out with Zachary, who's Eric's son. Saying you guys have to
Yeah.
work it out. And they do.
My father did that so well. My brother and I are 17 months apart. He's older.
Wow.
And we used to fight and wrestle as kids do. But one time we got into a pretty bad fight, and my dad stepped into our room, said, "What are you doing?" And tried to break us up. We couldn't. We were older at that stage, and so he said, "Okay," shouted at the top of his voice, "Do what you want." Slammed the door shut. Left. My brother and I looked at us. There was no referee. Nothing was going to stop us. We just stopped on our own.
Right. But that's how our mother used to do it with us. Eric and I rarely fought. Eric and I are
It's because I'm always right. So
it's because as long as Eric was right, we didn't have to fight. Really and truly, we would go at it. We're brothers. Eric and I shared a room for 14 years. And of course, we had disagreements, but it was nothing like what the other brothers would fight about. And if and when there was a fight, the once in a couple year fight that Eric and I would have, our mom would walk in. She would say, "The two of you are not getting out of this room until it's worked out between the two of you." And she would slam the door. And we felt more guilty that mom was pissed than actually each one of us was annoyed. But Eric and I always ironed it out, and we still do that to this day.
But
Okay.
that's how
Can we do
relationships
that?
get closer.
Can we do that with Congress? Can we send your mother and just have her tell them they're not getting out till they?
Listen, I hate, and I will say this on the air. I don't care. I hate everyone in our government from the top down. The Republicans, Democrats, they ruined this country. And it didn't start in the last 3-4 months. This has been going on for years. And what they did to this country is reprehensible. Every one of them should be thrown out of there and start anew. This is so embarrassing what happened to this country.
And people are starting to see it. It doesn't reflect well overseas.
It's horrible.
So that if I could, I think it started with Obama getting in and he being disrespected. Bush prior to that was made fun of, but no one called him Mr. Bush. They still called him President Bush. The courtesies were still in place. And having our first black president brought out the undercurrent of racism that has been there.
100%.
In Australia, racism is really simple. It exists, but they tell you to your face, so it's not hidden. In America, everyone's far more politically correct, but therefore they hide it, and so it's more dangerous. And I think we saw disrespect grow when all the jokes were going around about Obama. Now Trump's receiving the same thing.
Mhm.
We've become polarized. We've certainly become more party-driven.
What I don't understand is 99% of people that I meet, that I talk to, are right down the middle.
Yes.
Why?
course.
Like, why isn't everyone like?
Yeah.
Why is it so polarized everywhere else? Everybody I meet is down the middle.
Unless
Yes.
they're not, unless they don't want to tell you what their true opinion is, Eric. Unless they're hiding it from you because they're afraid that you're gonna listen on
I
Twitter
don't
today.
care.
If you want toxicity, go on Twitter.
Oh,
Twitter is. I made a post. I made a post that my kids are not stepping foot in school, and this is just my opinion. This is not
Mhm.
because I'm pro Donald Trump or anti Donald Trump. I'm not sending my kids to school because I don't want anyone that I love to get COVID.
Yeah.
That's my own opinion. And I had these middle of the country people responding to me in such derogatory, nasty ways, saying, you chill out, dude. I don't even want to mention the way this guy was talking, but he was in Trump rallies and he was so derogatory towards me. And I'm just saying to him,
Yeah.
you do what's good for you. I'm not going to tell you what to do, and I'm going to do what's good for me.
Well,
And that's
this
how you
is
have to deal with these people.
this is a new phenomenon, but prior to Twitter, you didn't communicate with somebody that was outside
Exactly.
of your social circle. So we're crossing barriers that were in place because of communications.
Right.
And so we're learning. Trump is the first president to use Twitter. Obama was the first to use social media. I'm against
I
the
didn't even
president
realize that. Yeah.
tweeting, but it's only, but I could be wrong. Every president from now on could tweet. So it's a new day, a new era, and we have to accommodate it. But yeah, I think we've become polarized as a nation. I think we're weaker because of that,
100%.
and yet the majority of the people I know, irrespective of their political leanings, want to get through this, want to help, want to do this. It's America is the only advanced country in the world that has employer-sponsored health benefits. It was started after World War II to help the GIs returning and was meant to disappear. And it never did. And so, again, what makes us great in terms of our economic machinery is making us weak. We can't break the political lobbying that the pharmaceutical and medical fraternities have to keep health as a paid benefit. In just about every other country, health is like education. It's socialized. I had a friend from American Express say, "Oh, that's socialism." And I said, education is socialized. Roads are socialized.
Yep.
So certain things should be. And health is a God-given right for everybody to be able to be attended to. And instead, we have a very broken system. So, yeah, I still think America's a great place. I'm lucky, I've lived in Japan, lived in Australia, and I've only lived here for 14 years, 16 now. And so I see it through different eyes. And I still think it's the greatest country in the
Yeah,
world. It's fantastic, but
don't get us wrong.
it does have to fix certain things. And I wish, if we're going to have COVID, I wish we could use it to fix some of these things, Michael. I think,
I agree, Nick.
the dialogue is good, but it should be positive. We should be looking for positive outcomes,
So-
not just bashing people.
You mentioned before, I want to shift gears here a little bit. You mentioned before how the president and, first started using Twitter and social media pretty recently. How instrumental has social media been in your business?
Because we are a new business, it has been, I want to say, 60% of our business has been driven by social media, not the results, but the brand and the brand awareness, such that when we do attend an event, or we do call in on somebody, they go, "Oh, you guys, you're the puzzle people." And when that first happened,
Yep.
we said, "Oh, we're identified." I don't know if you
Yeah,
want
we
to
saw it on the mug.
topic up. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. I love that.
I came up with this silly idea because we were using a lot of Zoom and Skype to interview people. So we ordered these mugs in February, and they arrived in April. And they've been sitting, and we haven't been able to distribute them. So we used our newsletter and social media, and we said the first 100 people that say they want one, send us your go online to our website so it's secure and send us your address, because not everyone's working from their office. In fact, most aren't. We had the 100 come in the first 2 hours.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
And so we had to close it down. The postage, these damn things cost $7.50 each to post.
Right.
It was like, that's $750, but we said we're going to do it. Let's honor it. We
Right.
don't, we're not going to fool around and pick the people we like out of the 100. It's the first 100, play by the book. So social media has been critical, and it was a learning curve for me. Prior to that, I wasn't visible on LinkedIn. Now I separate my Facebook from LinkedIn. So I keep my Facebook for my friends, and Travel Staff has a Facebook page, but I tend not to post work-related stuff on my Facebook, but I use LinkedIn. And I once made a post about LinkedIn is not Facebook. Let's keep it work related, and forgot all about it. And then I decided, my footprint was becoming big enough. People were needing an uplifting story. So I wrote my history about how I joined the travel industry as the lowest of the low, the mail boy, and then ended up hiring the managing director as my chairman 12 years later.
Mhm.
And just
amazing.
wanted to sort of talk about, if you try, you can. And a friend of mine from Belgium wrote, I think LinkedIn was not personal. You're doing personal stuff. And I went, oops.
I
But
think the line.
that
I
story was liked by 140,000 people. I've never seen anything like it.
Oh my
And
That's amazing.
yeah,
That's amazing.
so it's fun. Social media is very different. In fact, someone was asking me, it's HSMAI, the hotel people. We're doing a webinar next week for them, and they're wanting to know what people should do. And I said, right now, I'm telling people to do free courses. HSMAI have a paid one, but it's not that expensive on digital media and social media,
Mhm.
because that's where salespeople are being driven to next. I also did a post on cybersecurity. There are 350,000 open positions in cybersecurity, and there are courses that you can do. And if you read the news last week or earlier this week, Carlson Wagonlit Travel had to pay 4.5 million ransom because somebody
It's not
hijacked their
too
system.
it's not too late to start cyber staffing.
Yeah,
Just saying, just gonna put that out there.
I think I think that as people try to get through the next 16 weeks, try to get back to their jobs that may or may not exist, if they look at digital media and social media courses, and if they look at cybersecurity, those are the two areas where they don't have to give up everything they know. They meld with the industry that they're aligned to, and they can do well. The biggest question as people start hiring in the new year is going to be, what did you do during COVID? Differentiate yourself. Did you sit on the couch and eat Cheetos,
100%.
or what did you do? And if it's Eric and Michael, and we started a podcast so we could communicate. If it is my partner Imelda, she's actually gone back to college and she's doing studies, but she's of Mexican descent, born here, but her parents are first generation Mexicans. She's studying Latino history as it relates to America, and she's learning so much about her own heritage. So she's keeping herself active, and everybody out there is going to be called on to say, what did you do? And
Yes.
if the answer is, I taught my children and learned how to school at home, I looked after my aging parents. These are all good answers. But if it's, I didn't really have anything to do and wasn't sure, so I thought I would wait, they're just not going to get a job. That's
I
going to
agree
knock
with
them
you.
out of contention.
I agree with you 100%. I made a post on LinkedIn. This is more personal, and the joke was, um, after we emerge from COVID, you're either going to be a hunk, a chunk, or a drunk. So, and it got a lot of likes. It got a lot of people saying, yeah, I get it. I would rather be a drunk. I'd rather be a chunk. Blah blah blah. Like, I've had cheat nights during COVID, right? And
All three, baby.
all three.
I'm gonna be all three.
I'm gonna be a hunk, a chunk, and a drunk. But you're absolutely right. This was such a great reset for our family.
Michael and I would always talk about my parents building the business 50 years ago, how we would have loved to have been a fly on the wall, had a video camera. What happens if they had a podcast in 1976 and they were able to talk about building the business? And Michael and I always said, we started this podcast a year ago, and we always said, man, we wish we would have had this podcast when we started the business. Well, be careful what you wish for, because we're starting over. And not only that, we're behind the eight ball, and we took on debt, and we took on, we're so far behind it now, and monitoring our progress going forward, I think, is going to be invaluable in the future, because we can look back and it's
Not
so
only
helpful.
that, but your children, if it becomes a third generation business, which I
No
hope it
doubt.
does,
Yep.
they're going to be able to replay these things. And
Yes,
That's the
you're
biggest
leaving a
value.
legacy.
That's the
Yes.
biggest value, is the legacy that we're leaving, that
Our goal throughout all this was to maintain BLS for when we all came back, because we're very optimistic people. We believe in the universe. We believe in giving out good karma. We believe in that stuff. And you learn from your mistakes. And when COVID happened, to Eric and I, it was the great reset that, this is our time to educate our clients on what we did. And the client said, well, we want this done. And we added more to the program. And right now, we're not at March and April numbers. We have definitely inched up. We're definitely heading in the right direction. It's nowhere near where we want it to be.
Yeah.
My question to you is, do you think that it will ever get back to 2019 numbers?
Oh yeah, I'm sure it will, and I think people are misreading the news. Hotels are saying it will be until 2024 when they hit full recovery.
I
But
don't think so.
you have to look at everything. What they're talking about is when they've recovered the loss that they've made through 2020. It'll take until
Interesting.
21. But
Gotcha.
the occupancies will be driven by getting the virus under control. Hotels, just like BLS and chauffeur-driven cars, restaurants can't make money by running at a third occupancy. They can't make money by spending more money on safety and health issues than they were prior without putting their rates up.
Right.
So I think we will see a return to full occupancy. I use that word generally across,
Yeah.
full business in 2022. I think 2021 will be an escalating year, and it will start off slowly, and it will ramp up as people gain confidence and as countries agree on protocols for people traveling. It's already starting to happen where, some people do have to quarantine. If you go to Australia right now, you're quarantined for 14 days, unless you're Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban. They cheated a little bit. But
Sure.
the funny thing is, it's government paid. Now in the Australian government, there are people saying people who choose to travel should have to pay for their own quarantine. But right now, if you arrive in Sydney, you're put in a hotel overlooking the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. It was so funny. A friend of mine had a granddaughter, and so she flew back to Japan to see her grandchild,
Right.
and then returned knowing full well she'd be locked up for 14 days. And her husband delivered to the hotel a bottle of champagne and her yoga mat, because she's a keen yoga person,
Right.
and then stood out in the street 30 floors below waving, and she took a picture, and there's this tiny little guy, and then he worked out which window she was in, and it was like they were dating again, after 20,
really
30
funny.
years of marriage. And so if you want a free holiday, you can't leave the hotel, but you do
Right.
get it paid for by the government. So I think these
Let's go to
protocols
Australia.
are starting to come into play. And then once there's a vaccine, there's also 1 hour testing right now
Right.
at the airport in Tokyo. They
That'll
screen
become
everybody.
widespread. Yep.
And if anybody's running a fever, and they've been taking temperature for 20 years, people haven't known that they've been walking through
Really?
in Hong Kong and Tokyo. They've always looked for spikes in temperature. So if you have a temperature and they, put that little gun to your head and take your temperature, they'll put you in a room, and then they'll take a test, and they'll know within an hour. So these are the things that are being done until a vaccine is in place. Now, once a vaccine's in place, they're going to have to work out, how do they prove that? Is it something that you carry on your iPhone? I don't know if you're probably too young to remember. There used to be an old immunization book, a yellow book that the World Health Organization put out to show that you had your typhoid and your tetanus and your yellow fever and whatnot. And I think that's going to become an app in your iPhone where people will
You're
say,
probably right.
and there
Yeah.
will be some protocol so that some jerk doesn't go in there and go, yeah, I had it yesterday, when he didn't. But I think those things are going to lead to 2021 starting to ramp up. I read with amusement GBTA. For those of you in the podcast, that's the Corporate Travel Association. And they had to cancel their conference in Denver, as you know.
Yep.
You guys are always big there. And it's a nonsense. They're talking about corporate travel. There is no corporate travel. No company is going to put their key employees in harm's way. No company is going to send somebody somewhere and say, with the possibility that they're going to be quarantined for 14 days either end. My wife and I were supposed to go to Japan in October. I still have one aunt, and every summer we go to take her out of Tokyo to the mountains where it's cooler. And this year was supposed to be the Tokyo Olympics. So we said, oh, we're not going then. We'll go in October.
Right.
And I just canceled our trip. It was going to be a 13-day trip, and we would have
Wow.
to self-quarantine for 14.
Wow.
So, and that, people are traveling for family reasons. Like I said, if you've had a grandchild, if you're losing a loved one, of course you're going to try to get there, and you don't care about quarantine. But otherwise, it's just not worth going. Right now, there are only 19 countries accepting Americans of the 300 countries in the world. So we have become the pariah, the leper of the international travel community.
Like you said, 16 weeks.
Yeah, I think 16
I've
weeks.
heard Thanksgiving is definitely when things for us are amping up now. We're big in entertainment. I know you always
Yes.
post a lot about entertainment jobs and stuff like that, or you were
Yeah.
posting a lot about entertainment
Yeah.
jobs. And we're actually working with a lot of productions right now where they're considered part
They're
of the
scheduling.
crew. Yeah, we're
Mhm.
considered part of the crew. So we're actually the chauffeurs will assign a group of chauffeurs to a certain production, and
Yeah.
then they'll go with and get tested with everybody else once a week.
Yep.
With the rest of the staff.
And so that's pre-vaccine, and then post-vaccine, it'll probably slow down. So people only need to be tested once every 3 months. They just
Right.
don't know how long, whether it's a 1 injection process or a 2 injection process. But I think 2021, and so I'm quietly optimistic, to use Fauci's term, that we will start to stabilize, that we will hit that zero base and then start to grow. So I
I
think
hope so.
2021 will be a growth year. I think it's a year of innovation. It's a year of survival still. The numbers will still be bad. In fact, I'm surprised the stock market is doing so well, because the losses for
Can't
the
figure it
second
out.
quarter. No, I
Yeah.
can't. The second quarter just came in. The first quarter was January, February, March. So we had all of good January, all of good February, and half of a decent March.
Right.
And people were panicked when those results came in. And then April, May, June just came in. They're being announced now, and people are going, "Oh yeah, well,
So-
we knew it was
Mm.
going to be bad." I mean, you've got Starwood or Marriott announcing that they ran at 93% less, meaning they ran at 7% of their usual. You
Right.
can't run on 7%. Hell, if my gas tank gets down to 7%, I'm worried. I'm filling up.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
can't run. So
Do you
the
feel
bad-
there's going to be more, Nick? Do you feel there's going to be more bankruptcies in the
Oh,
upcoming year
definitely. PPP
in
and
travel
SBA.
specifically? In
In
travel.
travel specifically, and today I read that that smart guy O'Hara from Travel Leaders is just setting up a $500 million fund to buy travel companies, because he's going bargain hunting.
Right.
They are going to be weakened, and if he has enough money to keep them going, buy them and keep them going, by 2022, he's going to be laughing.
He's going to own it. Yeah.
And his brother, of course, is on the Amex GBT side of things. Don't be surprised if it's a target like that. It's going to be big, and they're going to take it down, and it's really smart. So there will be bankruptcies again in June. I came out with a newsletter for the small to medium-sized enterprises, saying merge, talk to your friends, join together temporarily, so that you can limit your overhead. What it doesn't do is it doesn't employ people. Mergers and acquisitions tend to shrink.
100%.
And so there are going to be more unemployed people, and that is heartbreaking. And how those people will get through, the big word for 2020 is pivot. If I hear pivot once more, I'm going to get dizzy and fall over. But I think it is, how do you change up? What do you do? How do you keep food on the table? What does it require? Is it enough? Are you in a position where unemployment is enough? Great, they've extended it. You'll be okay. Stay out of the way of people who need the jobs. If you need the job to feed the kids, help them. And so, yeah, we've turned into a helpline and a hotline, just trying to advise people on their individual needs, and to give a creative sounding board for hope. But yeah, 16 weeks. I think all of us can somehow get through 16 weeks with the help of friends and family. They're going to come to some agreement tomorrow, they say.
Thinking about, COVID was the end of the travel world, right? Like, you would always think, what would happen if something like that would happen, and it happened. And generally, everyone's muddling through it. And so if we can get through this, and see it through to the other side, nothing can stop us ever.
Listen, we survived. I want to expound on that, Eric. I want to
Mhm.
add on to that. We survived 9/11. We survived the writer's strike, which was crippling to our industry
Yes.
when they
Yeah.
stopped
To
traveling and
our business
in our
specifically. Yeah.
business and companies specifically. The writer's
Yeah.
strike destroyed us. And then we survived the Great Recession in '08 and '09. And that took a couple of years to get out of. But you know what? We always came out stronger. We survived lawsuits, these frivolous, crippling lawsuits for
From
these
2000 to 2010. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, these lawsuits that just, they didn't relent. They wanted everything. And we
Mhm.
survived it. And this COVID thing is definitely the worst I've seen. This is
Yeah.
what I'm going through.
Funny, you mentioned a lot of things in your industry. You didn't mention Uber and Lyft,
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
and you survived and came out stronger.
Uber and Lyft.
Uber and Lyft.
You
Listen,
differentiated.
that would be
Yeah.
like saying you don't need travel agents anymore because there's Travelocity.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah. It's the difference between specialists and generalists.
Yeah.
But there were a number of limousine companies and chauffeur drive companies that felt
they
it.
all panicked.
Mhm.
They panicked for no reason.
It was a
because
knee-jerk
if
reaction.
you would just double down on service,
And
you'll be
and
fine.
and education. You're right. Service and education.
Absolutely.
There was
And
a
I
need
will
to come out and differentiate.
in New York and LA, it didn't affect us because we weren't driving those people to begin with.
Mhm.
However, it was actually a boom to us in New York because these companies dropped their black car service because Uber decimated the black car market in New York. And we
Yeah.
were there to scoop up these accounts that were normally using black car service. They were willing to pay a few points higher to use a company like BLS. In
Yeah.
Vegas, it destroyed the city. I mean, it hurt everyone in Vegas, from the taxis to the shuttles to the
Yeah.
limos to the doormen. So, but right now there's a little bit of a renaissance
Well,
going on
we,
in Vegas.
I hate to use the word, we pivoted in Vegas, and we we pivoted there, and instead of getting the door rides, we went for inside the hotel work. And
Mhm.
listen, like anything else, you can't be dogmatic in business. You have to
Pivot.
pivot.
You have to be flexible. You have to find
Yes.
that service level. Yeah, absolutely. And
Yes.
so we are optimists, and I think that we're going to be okay. I worry about everybody between now and the end of the year because unemployment,
They're gonna
with
give
the
something
extra
back.
600, they're going to get something. They're
The
talking about between 200 and 400.
the
And
Dems
it's
aren't
okay for today, but they can't keep doing it.
the
So we
Dems
have to
aren't
get back.
relenting. The Dems aren't relenting. They said it's 600 or nothing. So I think they're putting. I think they're going to come through with
Hear
something
me out.
really close to it.
I posted this on LinkedIn. For the new stimulus, everyone gets 50,000, a bottle of Kahlua, and a medieval flail. Okay. That's the new stimulus. And I'm telling you, America would be great again. Okay. If everyone had 50,000 cash in their pocket, a bottle of Kahlua, and this thing that they could just hit people with, it would just be perfect.
That's the name of this podcast.
Yeah. 50,000 Kahlua and a
50K,
medieval
50K
flail.
Kahlua and a whip.
And a medieval flail. No, the flail's like a
Right.
mace. It's got a chain with a bowl and spikes.
I
like
just
that.
watched. I just watched Braveheart again, and
Yeah.
there's the thing
Yeah.
where Mel Gibson rides into the guy that was the traitor and whacks him on the head with it, and then runs that beautiful stallion out into the air and into the water. So I just watched it. Deadly.
Yeah. It was a classic movie.
With that,
Well, yeah, I just want to mention, Nick,
Sure.
where's travel? Where's your company going to be in the next year? Like, do you think you guys are getting out of this?
We are. We've got a long-term plan. We said at the beginning we have to get through till August, and that's what we told our team.
Yes.
We were wrong, and then now we said we have to get through till the end of the year. And by that we have our sights set on Thanksgiving, and then we
Okay.
go down the jolly holiday slope, see out the end of the year. We don't know where we're going to be. We
Mhm.
think, and it's only a guess, that temporary staff solutions are going to be big. That people are going to be scared to hire back for fear of taking on long-term liabilities and having to pay out if things go wrong. So we are ramping up our temporary staffing solutions. We've always used them for production travel anyway. As you know, production is a set business, and frequently a company that gets set up just to do that movie or that tour, and then is shut down. So in the production and entertainment world, we have always had temp staff. We've got temp staff at Sony, at Fox, at CBS, and so we see that model rolling out across corporate America, where people will say, well, we know that we're busier in spring than we are in winter. And so we're going to go to them and say, well, why don't you use somebody for 3 months or 4 months? Our temp staff are really strange. We don't let them out for less than a month. So you can't hire a travel staff temp, and they're all good. They're all tenured. They all know their business backwards. And of course, with remote work, we have even more now because they're going to be allowed to work from home. So we think that temporary solutions are going to peak.
So how are you educating employers with that? How are you educating?
We're not right now. It's too soon.
You think
Going out too early to the marketplace just makes more noise. If I'm asked to
Very
sit
true.
in on one more webinar on how to survive,
Yeah.
so we're going to wait. We want to see the signs of recovery so that we are a solution, not more noise. So we think that time will be January. We've set aside funds to do that. We have our pool of our core team of temps that we've always had, but we're going to add to that. With our temps, we actually put them through not training, they're already trained, but screening, where they're actually getting their GDS skills. These are people that know how to make Sabre sing. They're not the point and click, travel agents. They have to be able to get into the system and find 15 seats, or know somebody to clear a seat for first class because the artist is traveling.
That's what
Stuff
I'm
that you
talking
guys
about. I
do
love that
all the
stuff.
time, right?
I love those nuances.
It's fun, and it requires expertise. Well, we see that spilling into corporate travel and to leisure travel, and also into the tour operators, who again are seasonal. The tour operators canceled everything for 2020. Now they're banking on 2021, and they're going to need more staff, but they're going to need them in a spike. So that's the change we see, and it happens to be the industry we know. Hotels have always had it. They're called task force in the hotel business, where you bring in a director of sales for a month or 3 months because somebody's on maternity leave, or because you're launching a new product and you need extra salespeople. So we see hotels doing that because their occupancies won't build back to the old levels. And we see the travel community generally. So that's the big change, is we're going to be less about placement and more about temporary staff. And what I was saying about we only let our people out for a month, people thought we were crazy, but I would speak to managers and company owners, and I would say, if you only want somebody for a week, you can get through it. You don't need anybody. You just need to buck up. And our people, it takes them a week just to get up to speed in your organization, where to find the coffee maker, how to say good morning. So, and so what I'd do is we actually had to educate them. They'd say, we don't need somebody for a month. And I'd say, yes, you do. When's the last time you took a holiday? When's the last time your most productive agent got to take a fam trip or a holiday? What about education? What about letting your bookkeeper go? Our people are actually trained as ARC specialists, or they're multitaskers. And so they think about it and they go, yeah, we can find something for a month, and we could use that so everybody can get a little bit of a break. And I went, there you go. So we've never budged on that 1 month minimum. And it's also fair to our people. You don't want a job for a week. You want to be able to know that you've got something for a period of time. And again, I tell our temp staff, most people that get hired are temp staff who the employers or the team fall in love with. Oh, we can't live without Betty Sue.
Right.
Offer her a
Right.
job, because they know who they're dealing with.
Right.
So the best way to find a job when there are few and far between is to already be holding down that job temporarily.
It's amazing. I got to tell you, we've had a lot of guests on the show. You have the most soothing voice. I've been like meditating for the last 54 minutes.
You're very, you're very chill, Nick. You're
very chill.
Can you tell my wife that?
Yeah. You put her on the phone.
Bring her on.
Yeah, bring her on. We'll tell her that, my God, like, you are so cool, so calm, so collected. And
you're
we're
doing
grateful.
you're
Yeah,
doing a real service to the travel industry.
we're grateful. We're
That
grateful for you, Nick.
that you're able to help people find jobs, and I think that's just a wonderful thing. Where can people find you? Where can they find travel staff?
Oh, we're at travelstaff.net. I'm Nick at travelstaff.net, but we're on 24/7. I always tell people if we don't answer right away, it's because we're asleep. You know, we're active and proactive, but the truth is, the advice that we're giving most people is you're not going to find your job through us. We're going to give you an idea to find a job, but right now, employers aren't using recruiters. Why would they pay our fee, which is 18%, when there's a plethora of talent out there? Now, the truth is, we know who's better, but in this day and age, I would be saying the same. Why would you pay a fee unless you need that expertise? Save the money and put that
Right.
money towards yourselves, your families. So we're going to be running on empty till the end of the year, and then, as we say, we'll specialize as we need to. But I'm expecting 2021 to be the year we get back into the saddle firmly. In 2022, I think it's going to be a great year. I think,
Love it.
Michael, to answer your old question, when will it be back? I think 2022 is the day it'll be back to what it used to be like.
Nick, you're a godsend, man. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Like,
And,
subscribe, comment, share, everybody, and we appreciate you coming on, Nick.
Okay, and I'm going to send you a little note, Eric, to get the address to send these to, and I will be sending you and Michael your very own travel staff mugs.
We will use it.
amazing. We will use it.
Hang out for 2 minutes. I'm going to sign off now. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.